basically my experiences with vestibular trauma. And as you all know, I do all these cases at Nanavati Hospital at Mumbai. And my experience of vestibular traumas has been about close to 20 odd years. And now we are giving really good results. I'll talk to you what I have learned over the last 20 odd years. So whenever we have a junior audience, the first things they ask me is, sir, do we observe these cases? Do we do surgery on these cases? Which cases do we say go to the neurosurgeon? Which cases to be done by the ENT? That's the translabyrinthine. Which cases do we do middle cranial fossa? Can the hearing be preserved? Is a big question that is asked by a lot of people. What are the facial nerve outcomes? How do you really preserve facial nerve functions? Is a big thing in the world today, and gamma knife vagus surgery. So there's always a confusion in the mind of a junior audience as to what should be the ideal treatment for a acoustic neuroma. So I will throw some light on what I think is the ideal way to go about it. So observation is typically done for incidentally detected small asymptomatic tumors. A young person coming to me and saying, I got admitted, mild giddiness or MRI that for some other issue and a small acoustic neuroma intracanalically detected, these patients can be observed. Intracanalicule tumors with, like I told you, occasional vertigo but very good preserved hearing, medically unfit patients, that is, in case they just cannot be operated, you have no option but to observe them. And tumor in the only ear, that's a different group altogether. I will say observation for now, but we may have to think of alternative treatment options for them as time progresses. But all subjects under observation need serial follow-up with MRI scans every year. The biologic behavior of the schwannoma is different in different individuals. Sometimes you may have a patient with a very static, no growth in the tumor, but some patients the tumor may grow faster than 2 to 3 millimeters per year. So we all think of vestibular schwannomas being very slow growing tumors, but they could grow very fast in certain individuals. So again, you see this is one of the patients I was showing you. This is a small intracanalicule tumor. You see the date is July 2009. Subsequently followed up every subsequent 1.5 years scan has been done, and February 2014 it's still about the same. This is still about no growth in the tumor. So such patients need to be followed up with scans for about 5 years. Radiotherapy, not something that we really look forward to. A lot of people are being unnecessarily pushed towards radiotherapy. I sometimes feel that surgeons who are not competent, or sometimes surgeons who don't have the understanding of an acoustic neuroma send the patient for radiotherapy. Don't do that. If it's a primary treatment, is surgery. Radiotherapy has got very selected indications. I'm saying advanced age, above say 70 years and symptomatic, but if they can be operated, you would operate them. Subjects unfit for surgery, but symptoms are disturbing the quality of life. Some psychiatric subjects, of course, some residual tumors also you can think of irradiating them in case they are growing tumors. Surgical treatment are for growing tumors that is growing more than 1 millimeter per year on MRI scans. If there is incapacity, vertigo, growing tumors with worsening word discrimination scores, disabling tinnitus, large volume tumors causing brainstem shift, significant headaches and cystic tumors. So all these categories of patients, surgery is the primary method of treatment. Surgeries basically are hearing preservation and hearing destructive surgeries. We all as ENT surgeons know the enlarged translabyrinthine, and that's what I will talk to you about today. We can extend that to your translab, transapical and transcochlear. All of these are extensions of what we do primarily as ENT surgeons. Middle cranial fossa, I have done a limited amount of experience with middle cranial fossa. A very difficult approach. Your two main aims of preserving facial nerve and hearing. Hearing not always successful in preserving facial nerve. Yes, you can preserve it. So more expertise needed on middle cranial fossa. Retrolabyrinthine is a new approach which is basically for tumors that are located only towards the CT angle area, the tumors that are not going all the way up in the interacoustic meatus. So very limited scope for doing retrolabyrinthine as well. And retrosigmoid, they say is hearing preservation, but it's not always hearing preservation. When the tumor goes to the most lateral end of the interacoustic meatus, even the retrosigmoid cannot preserve hearing. So if you are going to drill as neurosurgeons on either side of the internal acoustic meatus, it sometimes may not preserve hearing. You may preserve some amount of sound, but if you are going to deteriorate a patient from say 40 decibel hearing loss to something that is 70 dB hearing loss, you are not doing the patient anything favor. You are in fact worsening his hearing capacity. So again, we dwell on enlarged translabyrinthine approach. That's the primary thing what we do. the classification of what is serviceable and non-serviceable hearing is this. Earlier when it started off in year about 2000, I remember it was called the 50-50 score. So 50 decibel hearing loss and 50 versus speech discrimination score. Below that, everything else was called unserviceable hearing. Above that, everything was called non-serviceable. I mean, better hearing was serviceable. But now the criteria has changed. It has been shown that this is now the 30-70 rule. So if your hearing is less than 30 decibels and your speech discrimination score goes less than 70 decibels, you may find it difficult to really preserve hearing. This second group here, where it is called the 60-40 rule or the 60-50 rule here, that's the rule where you cannot really preserve hearing. You can go about and do a hearing destructive procedure on these patients, and straight away it goes down to doing the translabyrinthine approach. This category, you have to select your patients, the C category, you have to select your patients and decide on whom you think can preserve hearing and whom you can't, and whom it is in fact necessary to preserve hearing versus. So each patient has to be taken as an individual rather than have a very groupism and saying that no, it just can't be done. So you have to decide on a case-to-case basis. Now again, size of the tumor is a very big thing, and preservation of hearing. It's very difficult to preserve functional hearing in tumors above 2 centimeters in extrameatal diameter. I'm not talking only the one in the internal meatus, the extrameatal diameter. In fact, this criteria has also come down to being less than 1.5 centimeters. So if the tumor is 1.5 centimeters in the CT angle area, it is very difficult to preserve hearing. So if a surgeon does a retrosepal and says, I'll preserve hearing, it's most likely that he may not preserve hearing. So then he may decide to do it either translabyrinthine or retrosepal. So again, typically in translabyrinthine, you have unserviceable hearing. You can see this tumor over here on the MRI scan. We also do a CT scan, as I also told you, which is a GPS for all of us.
Sincere thanks for accepting to deliver this oration the last time. Thank you once again.
Thank you once again. Thank you.